Here's the deal. Black folks, particularly black men, ain't the only one to have issues. Latinos, whites, alcohol, drugs, etc. So I don't want anybody to interpret what I'm about to say in any way that it's a black problem. It's a problem. But I'm a black man. I love my people. And under no circumstances am I going to apologize by focusing on my community. If you out there smoking weed, for example, as much as I might not like that, that's not what I do, I'm not calling you on the carpet if you're not doing harm to yourself or anybody else. When I talk about stay off the weed, I am talking about players in the NFL, specifically, who religiously cost themselves millions upon millions of dollars because of absence of discipline. It's not about whether the rule is right or wrong. It's about you knowing what the rules are before you sign that contract to commit to play in this league under their stewardship, under the guise of their rules and regulations. And if you don't follow it, you know what the price is going to be, and you do it anyway. That is a problem. Other behavioral issues that we've seen encountered by a vast majority of African Americans in the National Football League. It's a problem. It's also a problem that whether it's right or wrong, we're not seeing the imagery of folks from other ethnicities permeated over the airwaves. We see black, 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 black everywhere. And the fact is, that's a reality that we have to deal with as a community. Donovan has always been intelligent. Donovan has been well thought of. His family is phenomenal. And none of us are perfect. But by and large, when you consider the way he went about the business of conducting himself as a professional, I remember him taking hits from some of his own contemporaries, quietly, privately, anonymously, because they felt like he was too clean cut. These are the kind of things that we battle as a community time and time again, and we need to find a way to overcome it, because the only people that we're hurting are ourselves.
The league is 70% African American, and when you say the league, you're talking about 32 NFL teams with, like, when you count the practice squad, 75 players on each team? And then you're talking about all the college programs, because a lot of these issues are coming up right now. We're talking about draft picks. So we're talking about thousands and thousands and thousands of people, many of whom come from disadvantaged backgrounds. So you have that. From that population, you will find some criminals. I mean, that's how it works on any population, white, black, or otherwise, but particularly given the circumstances described. Everyone has a camera phone. You are going to catch bad behavior. It will be circulated. You will find it. In the league that's 70% African American, many of the perpetrators will be African American, especially when you consider the number of players coming from college and in the league. But you also have to ask, how many of these kids, many of them are, but many of them aren't, ready to be thrown into the deep end? When you consider the background and then the environment they're going to enter, including just college environment, how many are prepared for it, and by whom? Because oftentimes the funnel that gets them there are from people who don't have necessarily their best interests in mind, even though they're presented with an excellent opportunity. But they're funneled there by people who want to exploit them. Right? So I think all that adds up to, yeah, sometimes you're going to find video of misbehavior and accusations and even charges, and oftentimes they'll be true. And I don't know if it's more of a problem now than it's ever been, or if people, because of the proliferation of media, are more aware of it.
You know, I look at it in a sense, and it's unfair, because obviously we do look up and we see black, 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 and you wonder, you know, and I think from an eye standpoint, I think people kind of take the understanding of thinking, you know, that it's all black people. And I'm with Stephen A. I only speak for my own race, because, you know, when I look in the crowd today, I see my people. They're here to support us. And so they understand kind of the things that are asked of us. Stephen A. brought up the way I handle things. Now, I'm not perfect by any means. Everyone can kind of go in to find out what's happened to me or what I've been involved in, and I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm the most perfect guy out here. But the most important thing, while I played, I understood the game. And the game can be played in many ways, not just on the field, but off the field. And for these young men coming into the draft, they need to understand how to play the game. You're not invincible. Just because people may say you're a top 10 pick doesn't mean you're untouchable. And I think for these kids that are in college, if they're smoking weed or if they're, whatever it is, drinking or whatever it may be, they don't understand the things that you have to do in order to be at that elite level and to be paid like an elite person, an elite player. Now, I had my mother and father in the household. Things weren't always great. We didn't live in the suburban house that, some people have been raised in. We moved into a suburban house because my dad worked overtime. My mom worked 2 jobs. But it was still one in which I was raised a different way. But you still been raised by somebody, if it's by one parent or if it's by 2. There's things that you learn throughout the course of your childhood that you have to put in consideration when you get older, learning how to play the game. And that's doing the right things under the rules that are set for you to be successful.
When Donovan talks about playing the game, people look at that as not being real.
Right.
It's being very real because the game is very real. You can't have an attitude. I'm going to do what I want, when I want, how I want, with whom I want, but could you give me some money? Doesn't work that way. Because ultimately, in order to get gold, you have to capitulate to those who have it to give.
This isn't just a black or African American issue. The domestic violence and weed and all these different things we're seeing in this draft. All races are
but it is important that the black athlete recognize your face is the one that's being plastered all over the place. Black, 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 black everywhere. Right. We can sit up there and act like we don't notice, but it's very noticeable.